Hello there, fellow adventurers. This last weekend I went to AdventureX, which, if you didn't already know, is a convention in London dedicated to narrative games. You know, the ones that have story and characters, and maybe even some puzzles thrown in for good measure. The event was cancelled the last couple years, and it almost didn't happen this year either, as the British Library was taken over by aliens or something.
It wasn't me, I swear. I wasn't even there this year. You lucky bastards.
So the organisers had to find a new venue. Fortunately, they relocated to the University of Greenwich, so I sailed on down there aboard the Cuddy Sark. Although I took all my camera equipment with me, I didn't actually film anything except for an interview with Sean Aitchison and John Inch from Cloak and Dagger Games, which I'll post in a separate video. I did take some photos though and met a bunch of other game developers doing their game development thing, like Tom Hardwidge from Tall Story Games, who recently released Lucy Dreaming, and as you can see was so excited to be there he went out of focus. David and Sophie Younger are making Foolish Mortals, whose recent Kickstarter got funded several times over. They showed me some behind the scenes of the game in Visionaire Studio, but I couldn't tell you anything about it besides the fact that I don't have a clue how to design a game. Also hung out with Stephen Don, whose work I've always admired, even though he says he looks like a deranged lunatic in photos. The cheeky chap on the left here is responsible for the equally cheeky Lancelot's Hangover, and the cool cat in the middle is from Goloso Games, who developed Inspector Waffles. Then there's Will Ackerman from Kinney Games, whose first project, Signal and Echo, Iris is Missing, makes you feel like a real investigative journalist. It has a real old school vibe to it, and I can't help but love any game with a fish and chip shop called The Chippy. From the voice acting side of things, I got to chat with Samantha Bayard, who voiced Barrow Digger aficionado Thomasina Bateman in The Excavation of Hobbs Barrow. And if you've played it, you'll understand why her t-shirt asked the question, "Do you know Mr. Leonard Shoulder?"
Do you know a man named Leonard Shoulder?
I don't know out about no Leonard Shoulder.
I also met other YouTubers Yak Wax Lips and Chirian Shepherd, who together host the Point and Click Adventurers podcast, and Twitch streamer Villainy, who I don't have a photo of, so I stole this from her Twitter, which is from the after party where I look either asleep or drunk, or both. There was a total of 20 games being exhibited, and I was able to play some that I hadn't already, so here's my pick of a few of them. I already covered Prim when I interviewed the developer Jonas at the beginning of last year during the Kickstarter campaign, so if you'd like to know more, please watch that video, link in the description below. I was only able to play Locomotive for a minute before the convention ended, but I had a good chuckle in that minute alone. It was originally a short game in the AdventureX Jam last year, and it's now getting a full release in 2023, whenever the train arrives in the station. The demo for Midnight Girl is quite short, at around 15 minutes, but there's a lot packed into that short time. It takes place beneath the streets of Paris, and from what I understand, you're a thief, though I'm sure there's more to it than just petty crime. This game features some highly detailed environments and well-crafted puzzles, where each screen is interconnected. Be careful when blowing up walls with dynamite though, you can never be sure when they'll explode. Next is Rosewater from developer Francisco Gonzalez, who apart from wearing a dapper cowboy hat, also made sure the convention had enough deputy sheriffs to keep law and order. The game starts off in the town of Rosewater, which is in the same alternate universe as Lamplight City, which I admit I haven't played.
Shame. Shame, shame, shame. Shame on you.
Despite my shame, I still very much appreciate the amount of world building that goes into the demo alone. Right from the beginning, there are plenty of dialogue choices to make that can lead to different story paths and puzzle solutions. For example, when we need something from someone and they ask for a favor in return, like any good old adventure game NPC does, we can either play along or just punch their lights out.
Not interested.
Rosewater looks like it's shaping up to be an adventure that really packs a punch. Casebook 1899, The Leipzig Murders, is not surprisingly set in Leipzig in 1899, and you play a detective who has to solve 1,899 murders. Well, okay, maybe not that many, But there will be other cases that feature in the final game other than the first one that's playable in the demo. We play the role of Inspector Kreiser, always ready to take on a new case, just as soon as he finds the key to open his own office door. Instead of the usual suicide, burglary, fraud, or escaped lions, because lions were always escaping back in those days, this case is about a car crash and whether it was just an accident or if foul play was involved. Well, this isn't called the Leipzig Murders for nothing, so we must collect as many clues as possible to uncover what really happened. This is done through a clever mechanic of combining clues in your notebook to create logical conclusions. Prosecutor Gustav Mobius is standing by to help us in our investigation and can reveal all the hotspots on the screen with his super hotspot vision. Imagine if an adventure gamer could see hotspots like this, though they'd probably have to trade half their lifespan for it like the Shinigami eyes in Death Note. I found out from the developer that some scenes like this one are based on real places in Leipzig, so maybe when the game's released I'll take a location tour, just like for Gabriel Knight the Beast Within.
She almost seems to be watching me. That must be the famous Munich glockenspiel.
Ghost on the Shore is described as an exploration game about emotional ties that transcend even death. In other words, it's not a game like Prim with death dancing. The demo drops you right in at the helm of a boat that's floundering in a storm, and an unknown voice speaks to you out of the rain and the darkness.
Get me out of here! Somebody!
What is this? What is she doing?
What is that sound?
Is that...
Hello?
Having survived the storm and landed on an island that looks like it's been abandoned, you set off to explore and find out more about this place and whose voice it is you're hearing, if you're even prepared to listen.
It's been way too long since I got to talk to anyone.
I understand that, but I will lose my mind if you don't.
Please, just talk to me.
That's it. I'm blocking you. You're spam.
I don't always play these kinds of games, but this one stands out as one that feels like it has a rich story behind it, and when the demo was over, it made me want to go play the full game. The foretold Westmark Legacy has just the kind of gloomy gothic setting that speaks to my dark and geeky soul. We've been invited to meet a lawyer to discuss our inheritance of the Westmark family estate. To get there, we must make it through this rather inhospitable landscape with our traveling companion Ambrose, a parasitic creature that despite its ghoulish appearance provides some welcome comic relief.
God, you are so gloomy. Grief is fine and all, but you didn't even know these people.
There are branching paths you can take that lead to different encounters or items. This isn't a typical adventure game though, as it also involves combat. And not only that, but combat with cards. It took me a while to learn how to play the card game, which is also used to solve puzzles. It does feel strange though to be attacking a lock to get it open rather than using a key. Lastly, I have to mention Albert Wilde Quantum P.I., a film noir style game featuring a cat detective. Not only are all the characters animals like in Inspector Waffles or Lord Winklebottom, it also has some memorable lines I've never heard before in an adventure game.
There's nothing like the rush of being on a case. All 6 of my nipples are tingling.
So, I'd like to sum up this video by saying that AdventureX was so good this year, all 6 of my... So, I'd just like to sum up this video by saying that AdventureX was so good this year that all... So, I'd just like to sum up this video by saying that AdventureX was so good this year, all 6 of my nipples are tingling.